This is a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk. You're listening to the tale of three podcasters walking across Scotland during the 30th anniversary of the RAB TGO Challenge. Part 8.
This podcast is just one from a special series produced from a wealth of recordings made in May 2009 during the 30th anniversary of the RAB TGO Challenge. Recording the event were Andy Howell, Shirley Worrell and me, Bob Cartwright. We were just three of the 360 or so challengers who were walking the unsupported 200 miles from the west to the east coast of Scotland. This was the 30th year of the event, sponsored by RAB and, of course, TGO magazine, who have been behind the challenge ever since its inception in 1980. The framework and principle is totally unique. It isn't a race or competition of any kind. The objective is to foster good fellowship amongst walkers within the framework of a challenging 200-mile expedition. This is a backpacking trip, and everyone carries what they need for the duration, picking up the occasional food parcel along the way. The start consists of a series of sign-out locations on the west coast, anywhere from Torridon in the north down to Ardrishaig in the south. Each challenger, solo, couple or group makes their way via a high route, a low route or the mixture of the two across Scotland to finish anywhere between Arbroath and Fraserburgh on the east coast. There's a set 2-week window to do this in, and each participant submits their route for inspection prior to departure for safety and advice reasons. The places are normally limited to 300. However, on this 30th anniversary, this was increased to 360. Details about the future events, entry forms, past stories and photographs can be found in the October issue of TGO magazine. Plus, in recent years, there's an ever-growing online library of podcasts, diaries and blogs from numerous challengers dotted around the web. Each participant makes the challenge as easy or as hard as they wish. The extremes can be a remote high route, carrying everything you need, navigating your way across wild country, taking in the magic vista which only Scotland can offer, and not seeing another soul for days on end. Or a route taking in the many social meeting places, not camping at all, and using established warm, dry accommodation all the way. Most people do a mixture of the two in different forms, depending on the ever-changing conditions an event like this can throw at you. On this 30th anniversary, 3 of us took audio recorders with us to share our experiences, and those of others we met along the way. Rose and I started from Oban, Andy Howell and his partner Kate from Torridon, and for the first time this year, Shirley Worrell was to give us a solo female perspective, also starting from Torridon. We were all aiming for different finish points on the east coast via completely different routes. And so this is our story.
Good morning. It's Sunday the 17th of May. It is 20 past 11 and we're slowly making our way up to Localata Lodge and the home or the resting place of the well-known Bill and Stan. Looking forward to a nice cup of tea, possibly with a toddy in it, I'm not too sure. And the day's turned into being a bit brighter than forecast, so for that reason alone we're fairly happy. Reason for our late departure is partly because we went to the Moorlands shindig last night, which was a great little do, a small hotel just it's on the outskirts, I suppose, of Braemar, but basically 90% of the challengers that were in town were there, all enjoying a bit of live music, some real ale and warm welcome, actually, the warm welcome.
Best rock and roll band in Braemar. Bingo's Wings, in fact, the only
rock and roll band in Braemar. And they did a great job, and it's interesting to see that I think the lead singer was a pharmacist, and everybody were key people in the community.
Really like the guy with the kilt too.
Yes.
That made our night. Girls, anyway.
That kept the girls happy. Talking of which, we've now seen Beth off finally on the bus to head back to university to finish her exams. Quite right too. She missed her first lift, and she's now heading back. So we're child free again. It's like a whole new life, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's been interesting. We're just discussing the differences in walking as a solo or couple or three people, and how sometimes the group that you form is not quite as sociable as it would be if you're perhaps on your own.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. It's especially, I guess, Beth being part of a family. I think perhaps the family groups you tend to walk more on their own. I think there's a couple, isn't there, working with their daughter and son-in-law, so I think that would be quite an interesting one.
Yeah, sounds certainly be interesting to how the relationship develops from that point. So we're sort of back on track now. We had a day's rest yesterday in Braemar, as I think I mentioned. After a few hours of sitting about and drinking a few beers and having a doze and
doing the washing, the
practical things, and sort of reading the paper and catching up with the gossip and the MPs going for their expenses and the shocking news about Jordan and Peter. It's devastating. We're back on track away from news again, and quite grateful for it. Today, not a big day. We're either stay at Localita Lodge or make a push to go over the top, and perhaps stay where we stayed last time, which is a little camping spot in the woods just before you come out into Glen Clover. Very, very limited spots to camp that are actually away from everybody, keeping within the rules, as it were. And so I think because we've sort of been fairly quiet the last couple of days, done a couple of interviews, anything you want to talk about the walk into Braemar, Mar Lodge, perhaps?
I was going to say that was quite something. Beth was really, really tired and just couldn't wait to get in, and as we came off the path and down onto the road, there was this sign up saying free tea and coffee for TGOers at Mar Lodge. So we walked towards that way and called in pouring rain into Mar Lodge, which is beautiful. Hunting lodge originally built for Queen Victoria's daughter Louise, apparently, Duchess of Fife. And into the kitchen, and we got in there and it was like, what's going on? There was a few days challenges, and then there was all these Italians, all sort of typical Italians, sort of roar and up, and we discovered they were actually a group that would walk past us when we were camping. Bob had peered, there'd been a shout, and we'd peered out the tent, and there was this group of about, I don't know, half a dozen people, but with bright yellow sou'westers and capes. And Bob was saying, "It's a ship been gone down somewhere."
Shipwreck.
Anyway, it's 4 Italians and a couple of other challengers who were with them, and they were actually staying at Mar Lodge. So the kitchen was full of rather wet, bedraggled challengers, but it was quite spectacular, and a lot of people were seduced, quite rightly I think, into staying the night for £15, and 22 with an evening meal and bed and breakfast, which apparently was well worth it. And
there was a lot of talk about Egyptian cotton sheets and roaring fires and
big bathrooms and
7-foot baths. And so, for future reference, anybody coming that way, especially after mentioning it now, book early,
yes,
as they say. Then we saw Richard and Andy. They were an entertaining couple.
Yeah, we had a great laugh with them. Saw them again last night, and I think Shirley's interviewed them too. So.
Well, I hope to catch them again, because there's a few stories that have come out the woodwork about their trip across, which is quite interesting. But apart from that, how did you feel Braemar was as a place these days?
Oh, it was really nice to catch up and see lots of familiar faces, lots of quite a few folks that sat in the Fife Arms, and you'd see someone walk past the window and you'd get up and greet an old friend and chatter and whatever, but it doesn't seem a lot of new news really. I mean, somebody apparently had trouble with their ear cut off, part of it, or mountain rescue. I've only got half a story, and We talked to Ash, or Alistair, who apparently swam a river and somebody followed him across and got into difficulties and he had to pull him out. That's sort of the most gossip we've picked up, really.
Yes, and all suitably exaggerated after a couple of pints to make it sound good, but whoever had the ear injury apparently has carried on, and we think we saw him in the melee last night, but we weren't too sure, so perhaps we'll catch up with him later. Anyway, as you can probably hear, it's a bit of a headwind, plenty of water coming down the stream, so it's going to be pretty wet up the glen. Case of choosing our footing carefully, but I think we'll draw this to a close now and see how we get on later today and who we bump into. Hoping to camp up tonight with Lee and Tony at least, and perhaps have a chat with them. So yeah, we'll just carry on walking, really.
Yep, plod on. Beth sitting on the bus listening to her MP3 player,
eating macaroons,
going, oh thank God, I haven't got to go any further.
Well, hello, it's approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon of day 10 of the TGO Challenge 2009, and I finally escaped from the black hole of alcohol and debauchery that was Braemar, and I'm on my way to Ballater with Colin Ibbotson, who's given me a map reading lesson, which is extremely useful and long overdue. So anyhow, Braemar was great fun. I've no doubt that Bob and Andy have recorded all sorts of recollections, but it was loads of fun. Colin and I arrived a day early at Braemar with John because the conditions in the Larrigou had suddenly taken a turn for the worst, and so we decided it wasn't sensible to go up Ben Macdui, sadly, so I still have yet to go up Ben Macdui and attempt to meet the big grey man, so I'll keep that for another time. But it wasn't sensible, and we shot into Braemar instead, and so from Carraurbothy to Braemar took us 4 hours at what felt like breakneck speed in fairly dismal conditions, but it was lots of fun because I had my personal stereo on and Colin and John were chatting away, and we got there and we had something to eat, and then we went into the pub just to dry our gear, of course, to do a little bit of carbo loading, and I'm not sure at what time we actually emerged from the Fife Arms. It was much later on that day, for more food to the chip shop, and after that my recollection becomes a little hazy, but I'm sure that it involved the Fife Arms again. And so that was Friday, an unexpected day in Braemar, followed by Saturday, which was a day of unadulterated pleasure, wandering in and out of the kit shop intermittently, and even buying things. I bought a couple of new pairs of socks. I considered buying various other things, but decided to leave it at 2 pairs of socks and a new rucksack. Thought that was enough for one trip. There was more food. I had free-range egg and chips for the second time at the old bakery cafe next to the Fife Arms, which was really lovely, and was offering free tea and coffee for challengers who were buying meals. So that was great. And last night there was a bash at, now I'm not absolutely sure of the name of the hotel. It might have been called the Moorlands Hotel. I know Bob will put me right if I got that wrong. But anyway, the place with a marquee, and it was great. There was a band there. And there was drinking, lots and lots of drinking. There was wild dancing, there was some debauchery, and it was lots and lots of fun. And so that was that. Anyway, this morning, I'm sure that there are still people in Braemar, but many of us have headed out now on our en route for the coast. So anyway, it seems that we're on the way to Ballater today. Not 100% sure of what the plan is going to be tomorrow. It may or may not involve Taffside. I hope that it will, because I haven't been to Taffside. I had intended to go this year, but we're just considering whether or not to, well, precisely what we're going to do tomorrow. So I'll let you know when we've decided. And that's that. So I'll do another update later on this evening. I believe that, I understand from Colin that Humphrey should be on the road. Humphrey Waitman should be on the road somewhere behind us, and that he's heading for Ballater also tonight. But I think that we finally parted from Andy and Kate, because I think they've gone off in a completely different direction towards Loch Nagar, I think. And I'm not sure where Bob and Rose have gone. Or indeed John. But anyway, no doubt we'll all meet up again later in the week. At least I certainly hope that we will. So from me, it's goodbye for now.
Sunday, day 10, and we've hit the trail again after rest day at Braemar. We've come along the flank of Loch Nagar and up to camp high on a peat bog near to the Sheelin of Mark Bothy. It was probably the last wild camp that we'll have on this trip, which is always something of a regret. Anyhow, although it's the last wild camp, it's not been a bad walk.
Yeah, it's been a lovely walk. We left Braemar quite early this morning, about 8 o'clock, after a good night at the do put on by one of the local hotels, featuring the local band Bingo Wings, which we managed to bail out of not too late, and hence we were quite bright-eyed and fluffy-tailed this morning, which I think probably isn't true of all of our friends. So we hit the road at about 8 o'clock, and then we met Steve and Graham quite early on, and we've walked with them all day. And the weather, which had been so cold and wet and miserable in Braemar, has gradually got more and more cheerful and sunny and warm as the day's gone on. It's a bit windy now, it's a bit, there's some cold on the breeze, but generally the days just got brighter and nicer as we've walked up here to this little campsite.
Nice thing about camping on peat bogs, of course, is there are no trees or anything to obscure the late afternoon, early evening sun. And we're lying in our tent. We can see blue skies through the doors, and we're just catching all of the late day's sunshine. And if tomorrow starts off anything like this, it'll be a lovely day. Short day. We'll be heading up over Mucklecairn, pick up the path that drops down into Loch Lee, and from there it's a quick hop around the hill to Tarfside and the hostel there.
Well, it's 7:45 on Sunday evening, and as you can tell, we are now ensconced down by a stream or river somewhere. We've had a good day, actually. We continued to Localita Lodge and met up with Bill and Stan, and there's a usual sort of gathering there of people coming and going, names of which escaped me, but familiar strangers as they were from the challenge, people you see at different places but never get to meet, as it were. And after a lovely cup of tea
and some gorgeous carrot cake,
we made our way with John Manning and Alistair, or Ash as he likes to be known, who is actually suffering from a bit of a leg injury. So he's got a swollen leg, and he's obviously in quite a bit of pain because he's popping the pills at the moment. But we continued along Localita and right to the very end into Jocks Road, and we did that really, really steep climb. And while we were doing that steep climb, we turned round and had the most magnificent sight.
It made my day. It was John just spotted it, and we turned round, and there was a golden eagle just gliding across the loch and the valley. It was fantastic.
I've never seen one in the wild, and it was, as Rose says, absolutely fantastic. It was awe-inspiring sight. It looks like they must be nested or something right at the very, very far end of the glen. And it just sort of circled round and then went down the glen, obviously, whatever, looking for food, I suppose. But just majestic. Huge, great thing. Huge. But that climb at the end of the glen there doesn't get any easier. It's still short, but it's incredibly steep. And Ash bravely made his way over the top. And we continued down to, what do I know, Glendole, Glen Clover. So we are in Glendole Forest. We came down from the track. The weather was pretty good. The forecast tomorrow was for a bit more wind and rain, so we thought we'd press on although I did say to Lee and Tony we'd wait for them, but hopefully they'll catch us up either tonight or tomorrow morning. So we pressed on, and we're down in Glendale Forest, where we camped a couple of years ago, which is the last tiny little camping spot by the river before you actually hit the main road.
But it was really pretty coming down too. There was that tiny little body tucked up right on the top there, which apparently is haunted. I'm sure Shirley could tell us all about that. And then we came on down, and when I'd asked you about this, because I haven't come this way before, you were saying, it's really nice, it's all alpine, and as we were slogging our way across the heather and the bog, I was saying, is this the alpine bit? And you go, no. And eventually got to it, and actually it was a really nice descent. It was really pretty and easy going, lovely.
So we've actually done pretty good mileage today. We've done virtually 2 days in one, which has surprised us no end. And to finish the day off in magical style, we've had a nice homemade dehydrated curry, veggie curry, and we're finishing off with some Scotch whisky and shortbread, and water to cut the whisky come from the peaty stream, and it's magical. If this is what it's all about, and this could possibly be our last wild camp, I think, almost until we finish.
Yeah, because we're going to have one tomorrow night, but it looks like we'll. How well we've got on today, it looks like we might actually get to Tarfside a day early. Yeah,
I mean, Tarfside's well within reach now, and so we'll probably stay there a couple of days. There is a cost element involved in obviously stopping and starting and going to certain places. There's the Clover Hotel down the road, which John and Ash have gone on to. I don't know whether they'll stay there or camp nearby, but hopefully we'll catch up with them tomorrow as we continue. Hopefully Ash will make it and make a full recovery, but it does seem to have done something to his leg. It's swollen, and obviously he's in a lot of pain, but he's battling on, and we're supporting him as challengers do. So I leave you with that thought of a real fine 12-year-old Scotch malt, and the wonderful sweetness of shortbread, a fast-flowing peaty stream. The sun is going down over a peak I can just see over the top of the pine trees, and I'm looking forward to a very restful and good night's sleep. Better than the YHA, in fact, because last night the YHA 15 or 20 students turned up from a school for some sort of outdoor event, and it was, as one would predict, mayhem.
And we were also in dorms, so there were a lot of snorers.
Yes.
Earplugs are a must on the challenge.
Yes, top tip, always bring some earplugs. You never know when you're going to need them. Right, well, on that note, we're going to watch the sun go down and have another dram and chill out.
Join us next time as the journey across Scotland continues on the 30th Anniversary TGO Challenge 2009. Find out how easy it is to subscribe to all our free programmes. Visit our website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk or look us up on Facebook.